Hello, mi gente. Welcome to another episode of Espanglish. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you. Nah, it's like DJ Khaled. Anyways, thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for listening. Today, we're going to talk about Stephen Miller. The Trump administration is truly a collection of despicable people. It's like a competition to see who the worst person in the room is. In the country, really. Besides Trump, of course, the other person I think is a very dangerous racist and xenophobe is Stephen Miller. But who is this guy exactly? I believe in the old adage, if you will, that we need to know our enemies in order to defeat them. Now, Miller was born to a wealthy liberal family. After reading a book called Guns, Crime, and Freedom by the executive vice president of the NRA, he took an extreme turn to the right, and honestly has been driving down that cliff ever since. This guy is insane. In high school, he was really upset that his school embraced gay students. He's also upset that the school made announcements in Spanish for presumably students that don't speak English because they were recently migrants. And he was also really upset that the school only did the Pledge of Allegiance twice a week. But his hate for Latinos and minorities in general goes back further than that. His former friend Jason Islas, and yes, I said former friend, told Vanity Fair that right before starting high school, Miller called him to say that they couldn't be friends anymore. He listed out a number of reasons, but one of the reasons was that because of Jason Islas' Latino's heritage. Now think about that. Imagine if you're best friends or really good friends with someone, you get along really well, you go to the same school or whatever, you hang out. And then that person calls you and tells you, hey man, I really like you, you're a great person, but you're Latino, so we can't hang out anymore. That's how radicalized this guy was, not since entering the White House, but before high school. Stephen Miller is a true believer. He really believes his hatred, this white nationalist, aka racism, and white supremacy disguised as white nationalism. He definitely believes that white people are superior to others, and obviously he cannot be friends with anybody who is inferior in his views to him. This is the guy that has the president's ear. What really got Miller known was his defense of the Duke lacrosse players well before anyone knew the details of the case. So these guys were accused by an exotic dancer of rape. And even before anyone knew exactly what happened, Miller was defending these guys, not because he didn't know any details more than anybody else. He had no inside information. He was just defending them because they're white dudes being accused by a minority woman, especially one on a profession that's not very reputable. So the outcome of the case is not important here. What's important is that Miller defends these guys because they were white, and in his eyes they were the victims here. He is a champion of white male victimhood. And no doubt, nobody knows about that more than Donald Trump, his boss. Trump basically got elected because he played that card. He kept saying that, hey, I'm going to fight for you. You've been forgotten. You people, the elites hate you. And stuff like that, making the white male feel like he's a victim, like he's been oppressed for generations. That's what Miller and Trump know how to do very well. That this racist alarmist as the president's ear is troubling, to say the least. Here's another example of how crazy this guy is. In September of last year, the New York Times reported that Trump administration officials, under pressure from the White House, rejected a study by the Department of Health and Human Services that found that refugees brought in $63 billion more in government revenues over the past decade than they cost. This report said that refugees brought in more revenue, a lot more revenue than they actually cost the government. But for some reason, this information did not make it into the president's hand. Now, this was a deliberate omission in order to stoke racial fears and spread false belief that refugees are lazy, that they come here to live off welfare, etc., etc. Now, that same article reported that it was indeed Stephen Miller who insisted that the report only include the cost of the refugee programs, but not the fiscal benefits. In other words, this racist tough guy wannabe little man is not only manipulating our already racist president, but he's doing also at the cost of human lives. He's manipulating information to further an agenda full of hate and bigotry. I'm not one to personally attack people, but I really don't like this dude. Stephen Miller is a bad guy. He's a bad hombre. And I say that because I know it pisses him off because he hates Latinos and anything Spanish. So he's a bad hombre. But besides his bigotry, what else does Trump see in this guy to keep him around long after many staffers have been let go? Well, one word is loyalty. Miller is completely loyal to Trump, no matter what. He's like a most loyal dog you've ever seen. Listen to this soundbite from his interview with CBS's John Dickerson.
Is that our opponents, the media, and the whole world will soon see, as we begin to take further actions, that the powers of the president to protect our country are very substantial and will not be questioned.
It sounds like a lackey defending a dictator. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like someone who was sent out by the supreme leader to just defend them against the unfair press. And if that doesn't concern you, then I don't really understand where your loyalties lie. Is it with the country or is it with Trump? Because that kind of attitude, that kind of mentality is so dangerous. I'm from Cuba. I was born under a dictatorship where people are expected to talk like Stephen Miller, where people are expected to sit around a cabinet meeting like Trump has and praise the leader for his leadership. Even though in this case, Trump hasn't done a damn thing. He hasn't done anything. Nothing really that's substantial. Nothing really that's any good, to be honest. So I don't understand people who continue to support Donald Trump knowing that he has these tendencies of an autocrat, of a dictator. And now I'm not saying he's going to become one. I hope and I believe that this country's checks and balances are still strong enough, even though Trump has tried to influence the DOJ and tries to derail the FBI. So it's not to say that we're not in danger, but I think we're still okay. I think they're still strong enough. I hope I'm not wrong. But this kind of mentality is what needs to be rooted out of our politics. Donald Trump is not America. America's been here before Donald Trump, and it will be here long after he's gone. We need to think about that. We need to keep that in mind. And now when it comes to DACA, it's no surprise that Stephen Miller is one of the hardliners pushing for, money for the wall and all these things that he knows Democrats are not going to go for. He's doing it on purpose. He doesn't want a deal. Even Lindsey Graham accused Stephen Miller recently of being the hardliner that pushed Trump away from negotiations that he said he was going to agree on. This has happened before the now infamous and very short-lived government shutdown. Listen to this clip.
The White House staff, I think, is making it very difficult. I've talked with the president. His heart is right on this issue. I think he's got a good understanding of what will sell. And every time we have a proposal, it is only yanked back by staff members. As long as Stephen Miller is in charge of negotiating immigration, we're going nowhere.
Listen, I'm not saying that Stephen Miller is the only one doing this. John Kelly is another immigration hardliner and bigot. But our president is the main racist. I just don't think that Donald Trump is smart enough to channel his bigotry into policy. But Stephen Miller is smart enough, and he's doing exactly that. This is why he's dangerous and why someone like him should not be allowed a seat at the table. And now a new segment where we look back at Trump's Twitter feed of yesteryear, a trove of ironies and indignities, and you get to play a game at home or wherever you're listening from. Okay, here we go. In 2014, during the Ebola scare, what 2 words did Trump tweet about President Obama? Is it A, smart and resilient? B, a tough leader? C, stupid and arrogant? Or D, funny and likable? Got your guess? Well, if you said C, stupid or arrogant, you are correct. Here's a full tweet. I'm going to try to do my best Donald Trump impression. Please bear with me. What the hell is Obama doing in allowing all these potentially very sick people to continue entering the U.S.? Is it stupid or arrogant? Alright, that was my best Donald Trump impression. But there you have it. There's a tweet for everything. Anyways, thanks for listening. Please subscribe and share with your friends. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.